All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We're all about getting you up to speed quickly, right? You're here because you want to know what's really going on, like what actually matters in all this crazy Web3 world. So today we're diving right in. We're talking about Flare, and they just did something pretty interesting. Launched what they call blockchain machine images on, you guessed it, the Google Cloud Marketplace.
Yeah, you got it. And that's a pretty big deal, especially if you're knee-deep in the Web3 world.
Yeah.
Setting up these blockchain nodes, managing them, it can be, well, a real headache, and this aims to solve that.
Okay, so cut to the chase for me here. For the people who just want the quick and dirty, what are these blockchain machine images? Like, paint me a picture. It sounds like it could potentially save a lot of headache and work.
Exactly. Think of it as a ready-to-go blueprint for a full blockchain node. It's a virtual machine, pre-configured and optimized. You know how you usually have to go through this whole rigmarole of setting up servers, installing software, and then waiting, sometimes for days, for the blockchain to sync up?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Flare's basically saying, forget all that. They've created these images you can deploy with a single click right on the Google Cloud Marketplace. It just cuts out all that complexity.
A single click. Wow. That really does sound almost too good to be true in the world of blockchain. So walk me through it. What actually happens after you hit that magic deploy button?
So what happens is Google Cloud takes that image, right, and it spins up a virtual machine. And this is all within your own Google Cloud environment. The image itself, well, it comes preloaded, everything you need to run that full node for whichever blockchain you've chosen. The really cool part, the synchronization is lightning fast. Your node is up, running, verifying those transactions in a fraction of the time it'd normally take. And get this, you can even pick the latest version of the image when you deploy. Plus, you can hook it into an auto-scaling group. So as demand fluctuates, your node infrastructure scales up or down automatically, keeps everything running smoothly, even when things get really busy.
Oh, it's all about speed and making things easier. I like it. Now let's talk about the developers out there. You know, the ones in the trenches building the applications that we all use. What's the impact on them? This seems like it could really change their workflow.
Oh, absolutely. It's like having a node on tap, a node as a service kind of deal. But the beauty is you still have all the control and flexibility of a dedicated node right there in your Google Cloud setup. And the speed, forget about it. Spinning up a fully synced node, we're talking minutes here, not hours, not days, that's a game changer. And here's the kicker. They're not just supporting a handful of blockchains.
Yeah.
They're going big from the start. Over 20 major networks, including the heavy hitters like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polygon, Avalanche, all ready to go.
That's impressive. A lot of people probably don't realize how much of a pain the old way was. I mean, I remember reading about teams needing dedicated infrastructure just to manage a few nodes. It's wild.
Oh, yeah, it was a whole thing. Setting up those nodes, maintaining them, it was a massive undertaking. You'd need servers, you'd need specialists, you'd have to constantly monitor the syncing, handle all the upgrades. It was a huge time suck, and it meant developers couldn't focus on what really mattered, which was building their applications. And that's what Flare is solving here. Deployment, updates, a piece of cake. Click, click, done. Now developers can concentrate on their dApps, their platforms, their data streams, all that good stuff. No more getting bogged down with node management.
Right. Time is everything, especially in this fast-paced Web3 environment. Now let's shift gears and talk about businesses. I mean, speed's great and all, but what else is in it for them? How does this become a compelling proposition?
Well, for businesses, it boils down to dollars and cents. You see, running your own blockchain infrastructure, it's expensive. Hardware, software, and don't forget the people you need to manage it all. It adds up fast. But Flare is saying, hold on, we have a better way. They're pitching these blockchain machine images as a way to slash those costs. And get this, they're even comparing themselves to other node providers. Some of those big names charge like $2,000 a month or even more. Flare's saying you could run a dedicated node for around $300 a month. That's a huge difference, potentially saving businesses thousands of dollars each month. Suddenly, smaller teams can start experimenting with blockchain, doing things they never thought possible before.
Yeah, that's not chump change. So businesses are seeing immediate savings right from the get-go. That's got to be attractive.
Oh, absolutely. But it goes beyond just saving money. It's about reducing that headache of infrastructure maintenance. You're not so reliant on those third-party node providers anymore. You have more control over your data, fewer dependencies. And this also means that more businesses can jump into the blockchain game. Companies that want to explore blockchain development or maybe integrate blockchain data into their existing systems, they can finally do it without breaking the bank. No more massive upfront investments in infrastructure, no need to hire a whole army of blockchain experts. It just lowers the barrier to entry for everyone.
Okay, so we've seen the benefits for both sides, right? Developers get that speed and ease, businesses get the cost savings and reduced complexity. But let's zoom out a bit. Let's talk about the bigger picture here. What does this launch mean for the Flary ecosystem as a whole?
This is a big step for Flare. They're really expanding their cloud offerings on Google Cloud. They already had their API portal, which was a great way for developers to interact with different blockchains. You could do things like submit transactions, view data, all in real time. But now, with these blockchain machine images, they're going further. They're offering a full-blown node-as-a-service capability.
So they're not just providing access to data anymore, they're providing the infrastructure itself.
Exactly. And having your own node, well, that's a whole different ballgame. It gives you so much freedom. Unlimited RPC calls, for one. That means you can query the blockchain directly, get all the data you need without restrictions. You can manage workloads, index data, all according to your specific requirements. This is a huge deal for projects that need that unrestricted access, or for those that want that extra layer of security and control that comes with managing their own node in their own environment.
Right, right. I can see how that control and customization will be crucial for a lot of these complex blockchain projects. Now, you mentioned this is particularly beneficial for Flare's attestation providers. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So these attestation providers are kind of like the backbone of the Flare ecosystem. They're these independent entities, and their job is to pull data from external blockchains like Bitcoin, Ripple, and others. Then they validate that data, make sure it's all good, and send it over to the Flare blockchain. It's how off-chain data gets onto Flare. And using these blockchain machine images, it makes their lives so much easier. Setting up and maintaining all those nodes for the different blockchains they need to monitor, it's a real pain. This simplifies everything, makes the whole process more reliable, more efficient, and ultimately it strengthens the data, feeds that power so much of what Flare does, things like the state connector.
I see. So it's not just about making things easier for developers and businesses. It's about making the whole Flare network stronger and more reliable.
Exactly. And remember, they're not just supporting a handful of blockchains. They're already at over 20, and they're planning to add more. That's only going to make these blockchain machine images more valuable, and it really solidifies Flare's position in the whole Web3 infrastructure space. It makes the ecosystem more scalable, more reliable, not just for Flare itself, but for anyone using it.
So let's take a step back and sum this all up. Today we learned that Flare has launched these blockchain machine images on the Google Cloud Marketplace. It's all about making it faster, cheaper, and easier to deploy and manage full blockchain nodes. And this applies to developers, businesses, everyone. It simplifies what used to be a really complex and resource-intensive process. Plus, there's the potential for big cost savings, and you get more control, more flexibility over your blockchain setup. And the speed. Going from days to minutes, that's a game changer. It's hard to overstate how much time this could save for everyone.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Speed and ease of use, that's what sets this apart. It really opens the door for so many more people to get involved in Web3. And who knows, maybe this will spark a whole wave of innovation now that the barrier to entry is so much lower.
It makes you wonder, right? What happens when accessing blockchain infrastructure becomes this easy? What new applications will we see? Will we see a surge in new, innovative, decentralized applications? Will blockchain data become seamlessly integrated into traditional businesses? It's exciting to think about. Having readily available blockchain data and the ability to manage your own node, it could really be a catalyst for the entire Web3 ecosystem.
Absolutely. It raises some really fundamental questions about where Web3 is headed. The less friction there is, the easier it is to use and build on blockchain, the more likely we are to see those groundbreaking applications emerge.
Well said. And for our listeners who want to go deeper, explore the technical details, you can find a ton more information over at dev.flare.network, run SECP-marketplace nodes. This is a big development, and we're definitely going to be watching closely to see how it shapes the blockchain landscape. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.